We are told that history is linear, one unbroken line from caveman to now, to modern man, apparently the epitome of humankind. But is this true? Because when we look around the realm, we seem to see a different picture. We have ruins everywhere. We have structures we can still not construct ourselves today with all our modern machinery. So it looks like we live in a reset world. Catastrophism, it used to be taught. People used to know that this world was one of catastrophes, but that has been wiped from our storyline and turned into his story, which they love to tell us about in their books, in their movies and documentaries, and rammed down our throats in school. So today I wanted to have a look at some artwork, some oil paintings from the 1700s, and have a look at the world that they were depicting through the 1700s. And we'll see what kind of a world they show us. Hello and welcome. My name's Campbell. Thanks for joining me. This is Autodidactic Channel, and of course, autodidactic means to be self-educated, and that's what we like to do here, especially looking at history and putting it next to the narrative they tell us of our past and seeing what we can see with our own eyes, in the landscape, but also in the pictures of the past. And so today we're going to look at oil paintings from the 1700s and see what they show us. So to start with, this is from 1773. It's in Paris, and it's just called The Fountain on the Portico, or on the veranda, I guess. And what do we see but, a huge, giant size old building and small people who don't look like they belong here, or they know what any of this is about. There's people here sitting underneath, a water container, and we see this design a lot on buildings as well. This one's obviously giant size. And there's just these people kind of milling around. This guy here is drawing the statue here. So it gives you the feeling of people that have just found this and they're checking out what it is, wondering what it is. And clearly it's two worlds here, right? One people from one world and this building from another. Here's another image, oil painting, 1757, this one. And as you can see, this building, old world building, the roof's collapsed. We've got plants growing all over it. Down here, we've got columns and, bits of rock and things that have collapsed in. And again, it's giant size. And look at the people. These tiny people who, again, look like they've just found this. These guys are checking out the paintings. This guy's looking at whatever's on this stela here. And, two different types of tech. These people don't look very technologically advanced, do they? And this building, clearly, you needed a lot of technology and engineering skills to construct this. And another thing here, just to point out, is these clothes, like they're wearing these robe type things, which we're always told are, from Greek or Roman or, BC kind of times. But do we know that that's true? Were they wearing these 400 or 500 years ago, these clothes? So just something to keep in mind is the only thing that we know about fashion and history is what we're told. And of course, if they push the clothing in the paintings back a couple of thousand years, right, then they push history back and they give themselves space to write their own history in between. So this is dated 1757. Here's another one, 1773, again in Paris, and we see the same thing. A giant, way oversized building, looking very old, very worn. And in the bottom here, we have people, right? The reset people who made it through the reset or were introduced, whatever's happened, but clearly, tiny compared to this structure. I mean, look at these people here. This one's just ridiculously big. And, it's the same kind of thing. These people, they're checking out the statue a bit here. And this, you know, shows us the tech, right, that they have. We've got humans pushing around this wheel, no doubt winding up a rope, and next to it we have a hole with a ladder. So maybe there's lower levels and they're checking out what's down there, finding some gold or jewelry or some tech. But, you know, clearly a picture of, you know, one people in a world that they didn't build, in a building that they couldn't construct. They don't have the technology to do this, you know, clearly. And there it is, and clearly very old at the time that this was painted. Here's another one, 1786, again from Paris. This one, it's written in French, sorry. It's saying the approach to the bridge, Notre Dame, Bruck, whatever that means. So I'm not sure where Notre Dame is. Maybe it's over here. I'm not sure. But look at the size of this bridge. I mean, look at this thing. It's massive. And we have another one here and another one here. And there might even be a fourth one here. So massive, massive construction. Imagine, you know, the engineering that went into this, but also the materials, how, you know, hundreds or thousands of tons of, you know, hewn stone, you know, unless it was done another way. And on the top here, we have ruins, like there's been some kind of catastrophe, and the ruins are still all over the bridge. All this rock everywhere, these houses that have been smashed up. Down here, a few more, an old columned gateway there, you know, steeples in the background and everything. And down here we have the people. And again, their level of technology. Just got a piece of, you know, a couple of pieces of wood going out here as a gangplank to their boat. We've got humans pulling a hand trolley here to cart things around. These guys just lifting with their hands. So clearly not much tech, right? But they're living in this world, this giant sized world that's clearly, you know, had a lot of technology. This one's from 1800. And it looks like, I don't know, there's a fire, maybe an explosion, but I found this one interesting, you know, partly because, you know, this place is well in ruins. You know, some nice antiquitech here. But the artist has actually painted the columns. Look at these columns underground. And on this side, you can see there's, well, maybe four, but at least three columns underground. So at the, you know, at the time that this was painted, this thing was already half buried at least, right? Maybe this was the original ground level, and you can see it's built up to here, and we've got rubble in the front here. So it's definitely in ruins. And, you know, again, you know, these people in the front ground, no, the reset people, us basically, our ancestors, right? The ones with no tech, wondering, you know, what all this stuff is. Like we still do, right? Another one, I don't have a year on this one. It's from the 1700s. Up here, we have the old world, you know, big construction. There's a person there, so you can see it's a rather large building. And down here we have a bridge built of logs and wood. So clearly two different levels of technology. Even down here, just, you know, got people fishing by hand and shepherds. Two different worlds. Here we have another one from the 1700s. I believe this is France as well, probably Paris. And again, you know, an old world building that's all smashed up, looking very old, and they're just collecting the pieces that they can reuse by the looks of it. Got the guy with his wheelbarrow, got someone with some kids down here in a trolley. Got over here, we've got these people trying to move a log or a pillar. Got one of the rulers, one of the masters here. And over here as well, right? We have those that wish to rule us, telling, you know, with their little list, telling people what to do and what to take. And this seems to be the story through these paintings is, you know, these people, us, our ancestors that came through the reset or were put here after it, you know, finding themselves in this oversized world, this ruined world, and a small group of people taking over and telling us what to do, and no doubt giving us a story of our history, right? His story and why everything is like it is and why they, need to be slaves basically. And it still goes on today. Look at this. I mean, massively oversized. These are people. You can see in ruins, very old at the time that this was painted in the 1700s. Down here, another massive bridge. And look at this colonnade, like all these columns down here and down through there. So this is giant, just giant, right? And of course, a lot of these paintings, people will say, well, they're just imagination, right? They're not real. And I'm not sure if that's claimed with these, but why would people be painting these? Like there's so many paintings that depict the same kind of scenery. That these are realism type paintings, and realism, people pretty much go out and paint what they see, right? What is real. They don't normally make up these big scenes. So, to me, this was real. I'm definitely taking it like that. Look at all the detail and everything. It's even got all the motifs in the stone still. And of course, we have, the little want-to-be elites here in their boat, making the common people row them around and serve them, basically. Another one, same story, megalithic structures in the background, very engineered, very well engineered, and lots of technology has to go into build structures like this. And aqueducts are famous for having that perfect fall, right? That's just very slight, but enough to make the water run. So this is high level tech, this kind of construction, and again, very old, right? Dilapidated and falling apart. No doubt. Well, this top bit doesn't look like it's working. So, and in the foreground, again, we just have these, what we're told are peasant types, farmers and things, and the common folk, us, just collecting water in jugs, right? This is their level of tech, just walking down and carrying it back. Where in the background is an aqueduct that would have just brought it straight to a fountain near them, right? So an interesting painting, that one. Again, new people in a old giant ruined building, very old at this point that it was painted. This guy again is painting this statue. And these people are just cooking dinner, I don't know. But again, it looks like they've just discovered this, right? And it's all kind of new to them. And it's just this massive ruin. Like there was a cataclysm, right? A reset. And of course, these are all from the 1700s. So it would have been a reset, around 100 years, the early 1600s. And so it may have taken them, this long to get the people back into, or even the, they have artists to paint it, I guess. That's if the dates are correct as well, right? And here again, it's the same scene. There's people with a low level of tech that, definitely couldn't have built this structure, but this structure clearly very old, all broken up and dilapidated, and just two different worlds juxtaposed, right? Little people with low tech in this old, giant, high tech world. And another one where we can see down the bottom, have the common folk, the reset survivors, or the ones introduced, whatever happened. And up the top, we have in ruins, big old world buildings. And we have arches under the ground here, lower levels. A big brick. What is that called? Is that a pediment? But basically, it looks like there might have been a drawbridge or something at some point. And they've just come along with new people and built this wooden bridge. So again, two different levels of technology. This is a giant building. This is two people. You can see how huge this is. Very old, big hole in the floor here. And I mean, this even looks like a very large person. compared to this person. I'm not sure. Could be perspective. What do you think? Let me know. It looks like there's carpet on the floor here too, right? But, you know, old world. And again, we have these people, you know, just dressed in the sort of common clothes, right? This guy might be a bit more fancy, but, you know, just sort of common type people sitting in this building. They just look so out of place, right? Like, I don't know what's going on. And in the background, you know, we still see these, right? Every city, domed buildings with the columns and the porticos. They're what we call government buildings because, you know, the government, right, stole them, got us to clean up the mess, kept the buildings that were good for themselves and told us to go and build stick huts. Okay, again, this one, there's pyramids in the background. You can see this one's lost its top and this one, so I'm not sure where this was. There is a Sphinx here, but clearly it's not the Great Sphinx. Of course, we know there's pyramids everywhere now at the moment, right? They're popping up everywhere. So I'm not sure of the location of this, but this is interesting. We've got a working fountain, but the bowl it pours into is broken and it's just spilled out and made this pond. And the reset people have just put a piece of wood across there for their little bridge. So we have this technology versus, you know, pressurized water and plumbing systems, you know, let alone, you know, the construction of all, you know, this bowl and the lines and this obelisk, which is broken. Again, people looking like they're rediscovering the old world. They're going around and checking out, you know, what's left after the reset, the catastrophe, right? Everything broken. This lady here looks like she's copying whatever's on this slab. And is this a lady? A lady sunning herself up there on the rock? But clearly, you know, these are ruins. Ruins everywhere in the 1700s. Again, you know, massive, massive, giant, oversized structures in ruins, columns on the ground, and in the foreground, just these, you know, everyday folk, right, with a very low level of technology. You know, most of them probably no technology, right? Bit of fire, some clothes, you know, a stick hut, cooking tools, and that's probably the most tech that most of these people had. And look what's in the background. Again, some people, reset people that have found an old, very old, dilapidated old world building, and they've just used a bit of wood to sort of turn it into a shed probably, or a keep for their animals maybe. Is that a sheep? Probably. And yeah, they're just using it as a sheep den by the looks of it. But look at this arched roof. You know, we still see these ceilings today, right? With this squared pattern and the flowers in them. Like, you see that in a lot of buildings today. So it's the same thing. We still have some, you know, buildings like this. Of course, the really big ones, most of those have been taken down, but still some out there. And again, look at this building, you know, all just built perfectly, built giant size. You can see the size of the window here. Have these statues instead of columns at the front for the doorway. You know, all very artistic, done perfectly, perfect symmetry. And in the front, we have these people moving a statue, and they've literally got a piece of wood and 4 logs. This guy's grabbed the log that's come out from the back, and he's running around to put it in the front. And that's the level of tech they've got. And this guy's got like a bar that he can, I don't know, control one of the logs with. So that's the level of tech of the people, and this is where they're hanging out. And not to mention the big dome in the background, right? Again, great juxtaposition of the different levels of technology. This massive, huge old stone bridge, and it's broken in the middle, so they have just used wood to fix it, make a little plank across there, so he can get his sheep across. All right, that's the level of tech versus this bridge. Again, new people looking like they're rediscovering, right? This guy's checking out the lion. These guys are looking at something, you know, they look like they're checking out what this is. And this is, you know, an old ruin, an old building in ruins. It's got plants growing on it. Over here, we have a bit of an archway, colonnaded archway, again, with plants growing on it, lots of mud flow around. And in the background, a big city. And again, these people look like they don't belong, right? And clearly, they didn't build this because, I mean, look at the state of it. It's very, very old. Another bridge, another giant bridge. I mean, look at that thing. It's massive. You know, we've got some gates up here, and then we've got the little wooden fence, literally just bits of wood tied together or something. That's one level of tech, and this bridge is another. And in the background, we have a castle, a fort, a walled city, looking like it's in pretty good nick, survived the catastrophe. And down here we have the people and their level of tech. Bit of fishing going on, boat, and look at these big engineered steps right down, and they're just washing their clothes in the water. So clearly these are people living in a world that's been reset and they've been reintroduced. And as we know, this it looks like this happened again in the 1800s. So, you know, how often is this happening? And the thing about the resets, they are obviously cyclical, but they're not always worldwide. They're normally more specific. So different places get hit and reset at different, you know, reset points. So keep that in mind. But that one, you know, France obviously looks like it got hit a couple of resets ago. And this is just another picture I put in just to show that this is painted, you know, we would be told this is Greco-Romano, you know, in Greece or somewhere thousands of years ago. But again, you know, how do we know that? How do we know this wasn't 500 years ago that this was going on? You know, because the only information we have is books, right? And again, like this is a realism type painting. They don't normally make that stuff up. They normally paint scenes that are real. Another one just showing, you know, the juxtaposition of the technologies. We've got these people, this lady's fishing, these ladies washing their clothes. You know, they're carrying stuff up and down the stairs. I mean, not much going on, not much tech. But, you know, look at this massive old world house building. These are people, so it's giant sized. And we've got waterfalls coming in here into this clearly man-made pond. You know, so this was probably part of a garden, you know, back in the day. They loved their water, right? They were using water everywhere. And now these people are just using it to fish and wash their clothes in. And again, massive old world structures, very old, broken down, plants growing all over them, and people that, you know, look like they don't know what they're doing here. You know, these coming here for the water, obviously, and, you know, the water's still working in this. Now look at the rest of the place. It's extremely old, but water systems are still pumping, and this is pressurized, right? Shooting water up into the air. Now that's not an easy thing to do. That takes a lot of engineering and still working. So that these people literally, is that, yeah, it is. It's a horse. Someone's brought their horse to give it some water. And so they're just using it as a water source. But clearly, you know, this was not built just to, you know, let the peasants get some water. Here's another shot with another pyramid. This one is a bit more pointy, more, you know, like the Nubian pyramids rather than the Giza. But again, and it doesn't look like Egypt. So I'm not sure where this one is. This is by Robert Hubert, sorry, in the 1700s. And again, old world, right? Old world infrastructure, very old, dilapidated, grown over. And these new world people, right? The after the reset people. And down here, look what we have. We have someone looking like Socrates. someone we would think or be told is Greek by the clothing. But up here, clearly different clothing, right? So again, this could even just be the clothing of, scholars, for all we know, and we've just been given a different story to push, to push all this stuff back in time so they can give themselves more space to create their story. Again, little reset people in a giant post-reset world. Again, more pyramids. All right, we know pyramids are everywhere. And, this old structure, it's just in complete ruins. And these people looking like they're checking out what it is, looking at these pictures here into these rocks. And see, look at the detail, right? So again, it's my opinion that these are all scenes, actual scenes. They're not made up or anything. And just the amount of them, right? They all have the same themes running through them, right? This old giant world, and these new reset people that are small, don't have any tech, and they look like they've found this stuff and they're trying to work out what it all is, or reuse it, right? Like these people, they're going down underground to see what's in the lower floors. This guy's trying to move this block with a pole. That's the level of tech, right? So clearly, it's a reset world. Like history is not linear. Technology and civilizations rise and then they fall, and they rise and they fall. But like I said, it's not worldwide every time. It's different places get reset. But what happens is, the nefarious ones, the ones who wish to control us, they seem to know about these cycles, and when they're going to hit, they don't know where or what the severity will be, but they know when they're coming. And look around, right? They all seem to be getting ready for something at the moment. And so they, clearly have got through lots of these resets and kept control, or at least a couple. But I mean, how do we know, right? Because they rewrote all the history. Another one with another pyramid. Old world, just smashed, very, very old. Again, here's another pump that's still working, another fountain, and then it's just being used. And this lady's just getting some water. It's just being used as a water source, right? And people standing around carrying water on their heads, no technology. Bit of the gentry here by the looks of it. Some of the ones who come in and steal it all back, steal all the good stuff and leave us with the ruins. Another old world ruin. Not sure if this is supposed to be a waterway or if it happened after the catastrophe. It looks like there's a wall here for a pond, but again, this guy's got a fishing pole. This lady's doing her washing, I think. This lady's got a water bowl on her head. So it's just a water source, just got nothing to this building has got nothing to do with these people, but we're told that everything is this linear progression. But that's not what we see in these paintings. And with the pyramids, right, everywhere. And these again on the ceiling, these are more rectangular, but this pattern, we see this still on these arched ceilings. And these guys, again, look at the robes, looking, Greek or Roman. And they've lined up all this stuff down here to take. Like they've found this and they're getting all the good stuff out, right? But again, these could be scholars, right? Because this, again, painted in the 1700s. Another one, obelisk, broken, chipped, very old looking. These arched, colonnade type things. You see things like this at the Vatican and in different cities around the world. This sort of general design is still being used, or is still there in some of the old world buildings. And again, it's got water here, which is obviously, whatever water system was going is still working, and they're just using it as a water source, something they've found and very used. And here again, They found an old building, they've re-roofed it, but then that didn't do a very good job. And they're basically living, by the looks of it, in this giant construction. Well, they're doing something. These guys have got a massive, one of these flower pot things, these urn-looking vases that we see on the tops of a lot of buildings, but a giant-sized one. And people just, wondering what all this stuff is, right? Looks like they stumbled into a sculptor's, studio, if that's what they are, right? If they're sculpted, it could be poured, which would make much more sense. And this is, again, from the 1700s, and this is obviously one of the buildings that escaped the catastrophe. Look at this, and here we go. Here's this square patterning that we saw with a flower in it. And so this one in good condition still. And who do we have in here but the ones who wish to control us, right? The controllers, the nefarious ones, all dressed up to the nines, enjoying the nice old world building that they just stole, right? While, everyone else has to live in the old broken down ones. As you can see, we've got columns here and they've just built walls in. So this seems to be the story, right? Reset world, just regular resets. And it looks like there was one, in most of these are from France, these pictures. So it looks like there was a reset, a couple of cycles ago in Eastern Europe. It looks, because they hit different places in different times. So it's a very interesting story that we get by looking at these oil paintings. So I hope you enjoyed that one. Please share this around if you like this content. Leave me a comment. What do you think? Is it a reset world? Are these people depicting things that they really saw? Or, do you think it's made up, right? Which they obviously try and tell us with a lot of these pictures and images. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications again as well if you haven't. That works sometimes when YouTube send it out. But most of all, stay awesome. Thank you for spending some time with me, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins.